Not rich. Not
Speaking of which, the calls for impeachment are becoming stronger. Saw polling that the idea of an impeachment inquiry is now growing. Fox News did a poll the other day that showed the majority of people want an impeachment inquiry. Maybe a plurality wants an impeachment inquiry where he is booted and gone. But then there are others who just want an impeachment inquiry. It is gaining popularity. I do not buy the theory that you hear from some people that Nancy Pelosi is just being strategic about doing this. Again, I call your attention to her appearance on Jimmy Kimmel, where she claimed that impeaching him and then having it go to the Senate where he would not be convicted would make it impossible to prosecute him criminally after the fact. That's absurd. Maybe she misspoke, but that's a very specific thing to misspeak. I think she definitely does not want impeachment, but it does feel like sometimes the ship sails regardless of whether you're on it or not. And one of the people who's helping push that ship from the docks, I bring you one of the rock stars from the new incoming congressional class of Democrats.
Definitely. In fact, I would say like an indie group that is building more and more underground momentum.
Katie Porter of California. Here she is on a video she posted to Twitter the other night.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Katie Porter. Today I wanted to speak directly to the people of California's 45th District. There's been a lot of noise in D.C. and in the press about impeachment, so I wanted to share my thoughts with you. I've spent hours reading and analyzing the Constitution, articles written by leading scholars, and the 200-year history of our democracy and its system of checks and balances. After weeks of study, deliberation, and conversations with Orange County families, I've decided to support an impeachment investigation of the president. I have not come to this easily. I come to this decision after much deliberation, and I know deeply what this means for our democracy. I didn't come to Congress to impeach the president. I ran to use my decades of consumer advocacy to help Orange County families. I ran to fight back against big pharma and outrageous prescription drug pricing, to help families with the crushing costs of childcare, and to take on the affordable housing crisis hurting our community. And I will continue to do those things and much more. But when faced with a crisis of this magnitude, I cannot with a clean conscience ignore my duty to defend the Constitution. I can't claim to be committed to rooting out corruption and putting people over politics, and then not apply those same principles and standards in all of the work I do. I've reached a point of clarity in my decision. Congress must continue the work of Special Counsel Mueller. In his report and public remarks, Director Mueller emphasized that under current law, he did not have the option to indict the president. But despite the limits of his authority, the special counsel was clear that he could not exonerate the president. And he presented extensive evidence of obstruction of justice that requires continued investigation by Congress. The administration has refused to respect the rule of law. They have ignored multiple subpoenas. They've directed current and former high-ranking officials to disregard summons to testify, and the president has continued his efforts to spread mistrust of our law enforcement, contempt for our journalists, and false information about the law, Director Mueller's findings, and basic uncontested facts. The question is not whether a crisis is in our midst, but rather whether we choose to fight against it. I've been a congresswoman for 5 months now, and serving you and my country is one of the greatest honors of my life. But I came to this position as an attorney and a law professor, a mom to 3 amazing kids, and as a patriot. And I will continue to draw on that and on our love of this country and its principles as we navigate this trying time.
I mean, there's literally, I think, like 2 or 3 freshman Congress women who have been in Congress for 5 months who I think could walk into the presidential race and maybe win. I mean, I think she's one of them. I think she could theoretically. I mean, I think if she, I'm not suggesting she do this or anything, but just her ability to present stuff that anyone else, virtually anybody else, would be demonized over. I mean, it's like, how do you? I'll tell you who you'll never see on Fox News. Is they will they will never ever play Katie Porter on Fox News because they need a lot of time before they figure out what the angle is here. Because she looks like, I think, like their mom or their daughter. I mean, on that everybody who watches that. I mean, she looks like she just came out of like a suburban home in Ohio or something. And then just says like, this is the most reasonable path to follow. And look, she's right. There's a multitude of things that you could bring up in impeachment hearings regarding Donald Trump. Everything from obstruction out of the Mueller investigation. I actually think that there is enough evidence to make an indictment of some form of collusion with in regards to the election. One could argue soliciting a foreign government for help that they knowingly knew could happen is a violation of election law. But nevertheless, certainly stuff with the census question. There was new reports out today. They found emails that showed collusion between a Republican operative and members of the Commerce Department, specifically about the census. And the Commerce Department has argued in court that they had no contact whatsoever with this guy. So there's a myriad of things that can be brought up. And I think Nancy Pelosi, someone in the Democratic leadership, needs to start introducing the idea that it is Congress's job to look at impeachment. It is the Senate's job to convict. And if they don't convict and they don't even look at the question, they are shirking their responsibilities. You impeach Donald Trump because you must hold him accountable, because you must fill the vacuum that would exist over the next 12 months. And you impeach Donald Trump because it's really an impeachment of the Republican Party. And you use their refusal to even address the question, which is exactly what they will do. They will refuse to address the question. They will pretend it's not happening. And the way you define this is before you even start the impeachment inquiry. You set this up. We have our job. They have their job. You set it up so before the thing becomes highly politicized, because it will be, before the Republicans in the Senate say, these are the Democrats doing this, you set up the dynamic. You've got to set up these pins before you knock them down. And that's the biggest failure that Nancy Pelosi has. She should be setting up like this dynamic of, I know people feel it's the House's job, and certainly it's the House's job, but if it was the House were to do this, it would be the Senate's job to convict. And they can choose yes or no, because Mitch McConnell will not have a day's worth of hearings on this, because he knows if he did, it would be a problem. So they should be setting it up right now that it's within the Senate's rights to look at this and not convict, because they won't even do that. And that failure is where you get your political advantage from. in my estimation.